The Wild West is a period of American history that is often romanticized in movies and books, but it was also a time of lawlessness and violence. Many wild and crazy things happened during this time, from notorious gunfights to daring bank robberies. In this video, we will delve into some of the wildest things that happened in the Wild West. Gunfights. One of the most iconic aspects of the Wild West is the gunfight. Many famous gunfights took place during this time, including the shootout at the OK Corral in 1881, which is often depicted in movies and TV shows. Other notable gunfights include the Battle of Coffeyville, where a group of outlaws attempted to rob two banks at once, and the gunfight at the Hideout Saloon, where a group of cowboys fought against lawmen. Bank robberies. Bank robberies were a common occurrence in the Wild West, with some outlaws becoming notorious for their daring heists. The James Younger Gang was one of the most notorious groups of bank robbers, with Jesse James becoming a household name for his exploits. The Dalton Gang also gained notoriety for their attempts to rob two banks at once, which ended in a fierce gunfight. Train robberies. Train robberies were another common occurrence in the Wild West, with outlaws often targeting the valuable cargo that was being transported. The Wild Bunch, led by Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, gained fame for their daring train robberies, often escaping with large sums of money. Cattle rustling. Cattle rustling was a major problem in the Wild West, with thieves often stealing cattle from ranches and selling them for a profit. This led to many conflicts between ranchers and thieves, with some of the most notorious rustlers including Billy the Kid and Tom Horn. Vigilante Justice. With law enforcement often sparse in the Wild West, many communities took matters into their own hands and formed vigilante groups to maintain order. The most famous of these groups was the Montana Vigilantes, who were responsible for bringing justice to many criminals who had evaded the law. Frontier justice. While some areas of the Wild West lacked law enforcement, others had strict codes of conduct that were enforced through frontier justice. This often involved public hangings or lynchings of criminals who were deemed to have committed heinous crimes. One of the most famous examples of this was the hanging of Tom Horn, who was accused of murdering a young boy. Native American conflicts. The Wild West was also a time of conflict between settlers and Native Americans, with many violent clashes occurring. One of the most infamous incidents was the Battle of Little Big Horn, where a group of Native Americans led by Sitting Bull defeated General Custer and his men. Outlaw gangs. Outlaw gangs were a major problem in the Wild West, often terrorizing communities and evading law enforcement. The most infamous of these gangs was the Wild Bunch, led by Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Other notorious gangs included the James Younger Gang and the Dalton Gang. Saloon shootouts. Saloon shootouts were another common occurrence in the Wild West, often starting over disagreement or insult. One of the most famous of these was the gunfight at the OK Corral, which took place in Tombstone, Arizona. Women outlaws. While most outlaws in the Wild West were men, there were also some notorious female outlaws. The most famous of these was Belle Starr, who was known as the Bandit Queen. Other notable female outlaws included Pearl Hart, who